So, UK Game Expo is over for another year, and I have just about recovered from 3 days and nights of heavy nerd shit. And it was pretty intense with a lot happening, so I thought I'd talk you through how it all went down. I arrived on the Thursday, and because Expo saw fit to grant me a press pass, if you can imagine such a thing, I was permitted entry to the preview event, which was sort of like a mini version of the show with just a few hundred people in attendance rather than 25,000. And that was really great because I got to actually talk to people at stands and got to get a look at some games in detail without feeling like I was rushing or holding up a massive queue of people or having to fight my way through swathes of bodies and then fight my way back out again, which would become a running theme at this year's show. Now, I totally acknowledge that this was a real privilege to get to attend the preview because otherwise there's just no way I would get to speak to anywhere near as many people or go into as much depth about games during the rest of the convention. So I am hugely appreciative to Expo for giving me that opportunity. Once the Expo had started proper, Friday was shopping day. It's the first day, so everyone has stock, which isn't guaranteed by the Sunday, and it's much less busy than the Saturday. So it was time to throw some money around and buy some stuff. Everyone loves stuff, right? At last year's Expo, I think I bought like one game and spent about £30 over about 3 days. So it was time to kind of rebalance the scales. And this year, yeah, my wallet took a beating. So I'll talk you through my haul. Everyone loves looking at stuff, so yeah, let's do it. First up, Eat the Reich. Whilst I've played Honey Heist and Crash Pandas, I've never actually played any of Grant Hewitt's big book games, so my first port of call on Friday was to the Rowan, Rook and Deckard stand to pick up this beautiful thing, a game about vampires being coffin dropped into occupied Paris in 1943 with one simple mission: to drink all of Hitler's blood. So that's fun. It's designed to be played in 1 to 3 sessions of absolute ultra-violent carnage, and honestly, I cannot wait. And whilst we're on the subject of vampires, I swung by the Soul Muppet Games stand to pick up the quick start of Paint the Town Red, the sad gay vampire RPG. And I've sort of orbited Soul Muppet Games and their stuff, and having watched a bunch of other people play their games, I thought it's time I took the plunge myself. And this one had me at sad gay vampires, frankly, I'm not going to lie. This one sees the players take on the roles of deeply depressed vampires, and the quests, as they are reframed as nights on the town, complete with euphoric highs, shattering lows, and the inevitable consequences of both. Okay, next is Dead Air. This is a solo RPG by Little Sparrow Games, which sees you running a radio station in post-apocalyptic Scotland, which honestly sounds like something I'd be into, so I picked that up kind of sight unseen. One of the first people I ran into on the first day. Be Like a Crow and Be Like a Cat. Regrettably, I slept on Be Like a Crow last year. It won the award for Best RPG at last year's Expo, but I didn't want to make that mistake again. And Critical Kit Games were kind enough to give me a review copy of both Be Like a Crow and the spiritual sequel, Be Like a Cat, and they both look super fun. Be Like a Cat especially, which shifts the mechanics away from cards to dice, but has the same general feel. It has scenarios in it that allow you to play a cat in space, a cat on a pirate ship, or even a cat in ancient Egypt. You know, all the good fun stuff. Now, this massive tome is The Old Gods of Appalachia role-playing game, or Appalachia. I'm never sure. I think it's Appalachia, but Appalachia sounds better. It's also a gifted copy from the lovely people at Monty Cook Games. As someone with a tiny bit of familiarity with the podcast on which this game is based, I was curious to learn more. It's run on the Cypher system, which I don't really know anything about, which looks pretty interesting and is nowhere near as crunchy as a book of this size would suggest. Most of these pages are actually just dedicated to lore and sumptuous art. The system is actually pretty light, so a pleasing discovery and one I am definitely going to run. Now, I didn't buy any board games, but I did buy a non-RPG book, which was a copy of Gaslands Refueled. It's a miniatures game where there are no miniatures. You just take Hot Wheels cars or Matchbox cars, and you stick bits of other miniatures and bits of garbage to them to convert them into Mad Max-style apocalyptic murder-mobiles. I've been doing this already, and the game looks like it's going to be a ton of fun, so I can't wait to get into that. Outside of the shopping, I had booked onto some RPGs being played at open tables, and I'm pleased to report that it wasn't terrible. Obviously, as table chemistry is such a key part of RPGs, it's difficult, dare I say, impossible to recreate when pulling random players together at often maximum player counts under time pressure. But overall, it was okay. I played Microscope, which is the RPG where you use index cards and Sharpies to map out an entire history, and this was very good. I'd wanted to play Microscope for years, and whilst there was some difficulty in this game, as we had 6 players and a few of them were clearly intent on playing a different game, I think that's no shade on them. I think it's just different expectations at the table. It was good. Like, the game itself was a real eye-opener, even though what we created wasn't what I was generally working towards. It was an incredible experience in terms of the mechanics and how it works, and it's one I will definitely be playing again in the future. Now, the other game I played at open tables was a real surprise, and that was Candela Obscura, and a game I admit I don't really know a great deal about, other than it's from Darrington Press, the Critical Role people, who also did Daggerheart, which is the upcoming game that me and Steve have talked about on the show. And honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. It's kind of light and kind of breezy. It plays like a stripped back version of Blades in the Dark, a game with which it shares an awful lot of its DNA. I suppose the hook is really the setting, which is kind of a pretty cool twist on the well-worn trope of paranormal investigators checking out supernatural incursions. And I was so pleasantly surprised by this game that I went and picked up a copy. And I would have to say that if your table wants to play a Blades type game but wants a more supernatural vibe rather than a criminal one, or if they want a less crunchy Call of Cthulhu type game, then you could do a lot worse than running Candela Obscura for them. So that was the preview event, that was my shopping, and that was the open table RPGs. What else did I get up to? Oh yeah, I did a live show. Now, this was so much fun. Last year we were in the same room, and it holds about 30 people, I think, and last year I think we had 21 or 22. Now, this year every single seat was taken, and there were about another 8 or 10 people sat on the floor or standing at the back, and honestly I was absolutely overwhelmed by the turnout, and it was a great show. I think people seemed to like Gideon, and especially liked Lorenzo and their particular brand of swashbuckling. The cursed die really put in a shift in that hour, because the first roll really set the tone for the entire session. And whilst I complained last year that it was a bit goofy, like, this year was the same, right? It was a bit more of a breezy, daring do type adventure, but I just think that that tone fits Gideon and Lorenzo way more than it does Archer and Griff, so it was really good. I'm not sure when I'll be releasing the video, which was actually captured perfectly, I'm pleased to say. I want to get a few episodes of the campaign out before I throw out a one-shot, but until I do release it, please enjoy these out-of-context moments. We need to do something and get out of this situation fairly quickly, because we're about to get shot. Everyone says, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Is Zulu a Christmas movie? How do you kill a vampire? Is it Silver Bullet? No? After the show was over, there was a bit of a chaotic changeover as the next show came in, and they had a big cast with lots of props, a lot going on, but a bunch of you came up to talk to me and tell me how much you enjoyed the show and how much you enjoyed the channel. And honestly, it was so overwhelming to be told in person that what I do has connected with anyone that I was just totally blown away by it. And I also got to really briefly meet people who had submitted Tales from the Drift, and people who had been on board since day one, and people who had come all the way to Expo just to see the Bad Spot live. And frankly, with all this and all the adrenaline from actually doing the show, along with the nice things that people were saying, meant that my brain was just pretty fried. Saturday at Expo is normally busy, but this year was disgusting. It took forever to get anywhere on the show floor. So with everything going on, I just tapped out for the day, and I went back to the Airbnb, had a cup of tea, and played some games with my friends. And honestly, it was the best call I could have made. It gave me a bit of time to process everything that happened. So yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't get to speak to any of you who wanted to have a chat. If you were there, please kind of say in the comments below if you enjoyed it, sound off, and let me know. I enjoyed it very much, but yeah, like I said, it was just a bit of bit of a frantic end with a lot going on, but the show gave me a lot of confidence in Gideon. It gave me a lot of confidence in Sundered Isles, and the audience feedback filled my tiny little heart with much, much joy. So thank you, thank you, thank you, a million times thank you for everyone who came. Outside of that, I got to meet a lot of people I have been playing Clock Tower or RPGs with online, and to see them in person in 3 actual dimensions was kind of lovely. I played a lot of games, my favourite of which was Psychic Pizza Deliverers Go to the Ghost Town, and no, I did not get the title of that game wrong. That is genuinely what it's called. It's a battleship-style hidden movement game where you, a psychic pizza deliverer, has to find a pizza in a town populated by ghosts and then deliver it to the correct house. And you can't see where you're going, and there's also a pig. Anyway, it's great fun. I also thought Beast was really good, which is kind of like a much better version of Fury of Dracula, which is a game I like, but is deeply flawed. I also really enjoyed playing Heat, Pedal to the Metal, which was great. None of these games are new, by the way, but new to me. And that's what the weekend was mainly about, hanging out and throwing down games with my friends. And I stated in my preview that that was my primary aim, and on that score, it was absolutely mission accomplished. So that was UK Game Expo 2024. And this year they had record numbers of attendees, and it felt like it, frankly, especially on the Saturday. After the show finished, they stated that they hit 65,000 people over all 3 days this year, which is wild. That is up from 50-odd thousand last year. Next year, things are going to change because they have announced that there is another event taking over Hall 1 on a long-term lease over the same weekend. So the configuration is going to be very, very different. And I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. So anyway, that was my experience of the UK Game Expo 2024. Not long till the next one. Even less time till the campaign begins, which will be maybe this time next week if you're all lucky. Please like and subscribe, and if you really want to support the show, check out the Bad Spot Patreon. There you will get exclusive behind-the-scenes content, early access to all episodes, and your name on screen, like these lovely people. Until next time, it's farewell and safe passage.